you're out there alone and afraid. So if you don't make it, there's no Calvert coming to save you. Japan just, redid their constitution. So now they're going to become a defense tech producer and exporter. If you don't have a operational feedback based on that, you're iterating your technology, you're wasting your time, because if you're just in an echo chamber thinking that you have the best product in the world, it may not meet the needs of the warfighter.
Today's guest spent 30 years in the U.S. Navy and now leads the Forge at UCSD, a movement that bridges academia, industry, and government to strengthen the regional defense industrial base. Her reach extends globally through institutions like Sweden's Defense University and Estonia's University of Tartu.
Hi, this is Rachel Costello. Welcome to Drone Wars Podcast.
Rachel, thanks for joining us today.
Yes. Hi, Dan.
Will you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your background?
Hi, I'm Rachel Costello. I'm the executive director for the Forge at UC San Diego and also director for Innovation National Security, which is a course. I'm a native Kobe, Japan, and I grew up in Long Beach as a kid for blue collar merchant marine. Mm-hmm. And then I spent 30 years in the U.S. Navy. And after the Navy, I went to work for then a very small company called Tesla Motors. Mm-hmm. And after spending 4.5 years there, I came down to San Diego. And it's where I started my adventure with UC San Diego on creating a national security initiative.
So let's talk a little bit about what you learned in the Navy and how some of that stuff has applied to, where you've taken your direction from a career standpoint.
What I learned in Navy is obviously, learning to be on time and making sure you meet your mission, but also understanding where you are. So I was very lucky that I spent most of my first 20 years in Indo-Pacific on a warship or squadron or air wing. So I was always among people not from America, so host nations. So that allowed me to make sure that I understood what their needs were, what desires were, and to make sure that we're representing well the United States. Yeah.
How have you been able to take that skill kind of into the private sector and then into back?
Yeah. So when you're a Navy sailor, especially overseas, you have to be pretty scrappy because not everything will come to you like it would for CONUS-based sailors. So let's say that we learn to what we call a COMSHA, where, okay, I don't have this on my ship, this part, so I'm going to go to the ship next to me and barter, see what I could get. So it became very scrappy, very entrepreneurial. Looking back, I do smile that I guess we're more entrepreneurial than we knew at that point. Yeah. So I brought that to, I guess, what I'm doing now.
Yeah, which is kind of like there is no blocker. You just got to figure out how to move around the problem and solve it.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great entrepreneur skill to have, which is that resilience and that I'm not going to give up feeling, right?
Right, right. Because we couldn't also... Yeah. You're out there alone and afraid. So if you don't make it, there's no Calvert coming to save you. So you have to either do it or,
It's almost like, you cannot not do it.
Cannot do it, yeah.
So Rachel, talk to us a little bit. That's a nice transition into building a defense innovation ecosystem. And this is probably one of the reasons you've been so successful is you're you have to win, I guess, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. So what's that been like here?
So when I first met you, I think it was in 2018, no one was talking defense, right? So here we are 6 years later, it's hot. But I think that what's important for this region to succeed is you need an integrated ecosystem, right? That means that it'd be better to have all the stakeholders together in one location, preferably within a couple of zip codes apart. Yeah, very important.
Yeah, and so how have you kind of executed on that?
So we created at UC San Diego, launched an initiative called the Forge, which brings in all the national security initiative under one office. Mm-hmm. So we're under Research Affairs and Innovation and Office of Innovation Commercialization. And we created DICE Alliance, which stands for Defense Innovation Commercialization Enterprise. And that brings in academia, investors, subject matter experts, and connect them to industry and local commanders. That's one.
Yeah, the DICE meetings are unbelievable for folks who have not been to one. You have all the stakeholders in here. And I think that leads to the story that you like to talk about, which is kind of San Diego's unfair advantage. How would you describe that?
Wow. So San Diego has unfair advantage that's not possible to replicate anywhere else. The reason that is that we have we sit at the active nexus of real world operation environments, right? And within our backyard, we have every operation domain. We have naval, air, and naval surface forces. We have Third Fleet. We have 1MEF, Space Force, NWC, NAVWAR, and soon we're going to have PAE for RAS and PA for Maritimes, which is incredible.
Why don't you think, like, I always give shit to DIU. I'm like, guys, like, you didn't need to do Austin. This is where you should have done it because you have 30% of the economy and then hundreds of thousands of active duty folks here in town. Why has it taken so long for San Diego to emerge in this ecosystem? Have we just done a bad job marketing? I mean, what do you think?
Texas actually had a plan that I think we're doing. We're at the meeting recently together. So I think the San Diego population, both industry and the government, thought that, well, we're a Navy town.
Right.
Slap the table and walk away. In Texas, they actually did a tri-regional study. So I think Austin and Dallas and Fort Worth, a couple of other cities got together, and they actually created a roadmap. And it took them, I think, maybe 10 years to get it to fruition. But that's why they're successful. And Austin, they chose to be the flagship town, to be the epicenter. So that's what we need here.
Yeah. And you think we're on our way?
I hope so. I think there's been good conversation with the various stakeholders. You and I are part of it. So I think we just have to keep pushing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have basically the ability to reach tons of end users here, right?
Yes.
If you were giving advice to a defense company, let's say a defense startup, how important is it to be near or to be in constant communication with customers?
It's critical, right? Unless you have a tons of money to travel, like you would if you're in Austin or even Palo Alto, right? You drive within 5 minutes drive. You could talk to end users, and through companies like yours or through academia, DICE or Five Eyes for that matter, we could connect the startup to the end users. But you have to know who your end users are.
You're right.
You can't just say, "Hey, Dan, I want to work with the U.S. Navy." You need to do your homework and due diligence. Say, "I want to work for this enterprise. I've already done homework. I think my technology could fit into that gap."
Do you and then talk about from an operational standpoint, why is it important to be near your customers?
From operations?
I'm sorry, from a testing and validation standpoint.
Oh, as a startup.
Yeah.
Okay. Because if you don't have a operational feedback, and based on that, you're iterating your technology, you're wasting your time. Because if you're just in an echo chamber thinking that you have the best product in the world, it may not meet the needs of the warfighter. And as a warfighter, that was my irritant, right? Because we'll get this technology, we're supposed to integrate it, but whoever invented it or sold it, then think about adoption.
It's interesting, like when you look at the defense ecosystem here, there's tons and tons of like the big primes, right?
Yeah.
On the aerial vehicle side, you got General Atomics, the greatest drone company of all time. We have Shield AI, we have Kratos. We hope to join that rank soon. And then probably an hour and a half away, you have Anduril, right? So there's a nexus there. But I don't see yet San Diego becoming the unmanned surface vehicle nexus. And that's surprising to me, given how, like, if you don't build and test in really tough environments, like you're going to be in trouble, right? How much will having kind of PAE RAS and maybe even the RCO here help turn this into like an unmanned maritime nexus, in your opinion?
I think having the PAEs here is a game changer, because then we'll have actual entity that has the funds, and then perhaps maybe get to know the companies and environment here better.
Yeah.
And then speak to the power back in DC, say, we need this. We didn't have that before. And the operators, yes, all the third fleet, Air Force, or four, but they're kind of busy doing that. So the fact that we have an acquisition executive here is it's wonderful.
No, I think it's going to be a game changer, right? Okay, so let's change gears here for a minute. One of the things that I want to talk about next is how we win the brain drain. Okay. And you're in a very interesting position, having been in the military, then worked at, one of the greatest startups we've seen in the last 30 years, and now kind of working at UCSD to kind of turn it into like a world-class, build the world-class defense ecosystem.
Right.
How important is like kind of shifting the engineering culture going to be for us?
We have to do it. The raw engineering talent will always gravitate toward consumer tech. That's all they know. So it's important for academia, industry, neoprimes like yourself to expose our students or help us expose students to what's possible out there, right? So example is 5 years ago when Paul Robin asked me to kickstart I4NS, there was no national security focus course, and there still isn't, right? So we've been working with the Defense Innovation Unit since 2015 to flip that script. How do we get 45,000 students on campus excited about national security? So we source problem statements directly from our local commanders and then basically market out to our students. They take the course for 10 weeks, and during that 10 weeks, they learn the culture, organization, but more importantly, tech development habits of the warfighters. Then we take them to the base. We take them to the ships. We send them overseas. So now they're thinking, oh, I'm meeting the end users. And this is what the challenges are facing. And now I have a better understanding what that is like. And through the tools we teach them, I could solve that.
Have you seen a shift in the last couple of years from like an ease of getting people to want to work on these problems?
Absolutely. So I started out 6 years ago with 2 teams and 8 students at a dusty, moldy conference room in Atkinson Hall on campus. Now we're up to 5 teams and 25 students, right? But for spring, we had 175 kids fighting for the 25 spots we have.
That is awesome.
I would say that's gone. It's all word of mouth.
You know what's been interesting for us is we actually get, I'd say, more applicants to come work on the engineering side from SDSU than UCSD.
Really? Okay. Yeah.
How do we change that?
I think what we need to do is maybe work together and bring you guys, on campus.
Yeah.
It's all they're kids,
Of course.
so very easily distracted, and I think some ways the SDSU students are hungrier, right? Because definitely I do want to change that.
Yeah.
So maybe we could collaborate on some events. And thank you for sponsoring the hackathon.
Of course.
That was amazing, along with Bow Capital. We had 70 students show up a weekend before their finals.
That's incredible.
And they spent 40 hours and came up with a really great MVP for both hardware and software.
Yeah.
So more of that.
So I think one of the things that the general public doesn't really appreciate is just how talented a lot of the young students are, and how like they'll actually drive themselves to solve problems. How are you guys facilitating that on campus?
We, especially for the course that I teach, I take some sophomore, but it's mostly juniors and seniors. And I tell them one thing: just get out of the building, go off campus, go talk to industry, talk to professor, but just talk to total strangers. And a lot of times they're confused first 2 weeks because they want to be told what to do, right? But by giving them a freedom to do what they want and fail and learn from it, but provide them top cover, that gives them confidence. I think that's been, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I think a lot of times when you're young, it's about exposure to new ideas and new things, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard too, like if your parents don't understand the industry and you're going to ask them for advice, they don't have anything to kind of like have a reference point. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And then through the course, and because they have to interview 10 total strangers a week, and we provide them with a starter interview list from the problem sponsors, and they go out in the wild. So by end of the 10th week, they've had probably interviewed about 80 total strangers, expanded their networks widely, because we now have a FCA student chapters. They meet the warfighters, they meet the industry people. become a very interesting recruit for future hires.
Okay, so let's kind of switch gears for a second here. You have some relationships with international universities.
Yeah.
What are you seeing there that's similar and then different to how we're doing stuff in the U.S.?
I could give you an example for Sweden.
Cool.
Right? Because we're actually negotiating a memorandum of understanding to replicate the course I teach at the Swedish Defense University. Because they have a free education, they're also having problems recruiting students to do something national security related.
Huh.
Right. So that's kind of where I'm working with them to say you have to make it worthwhile for them. You have to spark their interest. You can't say you got to do this, but say, have you thought about an alternative career path? You don't have to wear a uniform. You could still be cool.
Yeah.
Wearing your whatever the t-shirts and jeans.
Yeah.
They could still contribute to the national security.
It's fascinating because Sweden's become over the last decade one of the per capita best entrepreneurial countries in the world. They have a ton of unicorns that they can point to.
Yeah.
But then they also have the big bad Russian bear right there. Why do you think there's a disconnect in Sweden?
I guess because, there's definitely a disconnect, and maybe having not had a invasion in a long time.
Sure.
Wars a little bit, 80 plus years ago, right?
Yeah.
So that could be reason, and maybe because they have when some things are given to you, you don't necessarily appreciate it. So maybe that. I will say though, in comparison, Estonians are totally different.
Yeah.
So when you go from Nordic nation to Baltic, the game changes because Estonia was under Russian occupation until mid-90s, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So people my age were under Russian occupation, so they have a much more intense sense of urgency, including the kids.
It's fascinating when you go talk to people in Eastern Europe because if they're my age, they were little kids. They're your age, they grew up with it.
Exactly.
And then if they're your parents' age, my grandparents' age, then all of a sudden it's like, it was really bad.
Yeah.
And as the conversations we have in Poland are very similar to that.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone has an aunt, an uncle, a grandma or somebody, a grandpa who was literally killed or displaced by the USSR, and they still equate Putin to that type of behavior. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But Western Europe doesn't seem to have that same sense of urgency.
Yeah. So as soon as you go across the Baltic Sea from Baltic to Nordic, it does slightly change.
Yeah.
So if you go to Finland or Norway's a little bit even closer, so there are more sense of urgencies there. But that's how I've noticed that too.
What are you seeing in Asia?
Asia, interesting place. Japan just redid their constitution, so now they're going to become a defense tech producer and exporter.
Yep.
But they're also very, very interested in making up the lost time. So I think it's fantastic that you're going to Japan, as with Mike, because I think it's an opportunity for them to see and learn what you guys are doing that they could learn from. Because I think, unfortunately, because of the constitution restriction, they kind of let some of that defense mentality erode.
Yeah. And they have, an existential threat. 500 miles away from them, right?
Believe it or not, they don't think that. Well, we think that.
Right.
But when I talk to my cousin,
really?
Yeah, I don't understand it. Maybe having this long of prosperity, 80 plus years.
Yeah.
It might be the same for Sweden and Japan for that matter.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears to the last set of questions here, right? What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you watching that's interesting?
Because I'm really, this is what I do.
Yeah.
When I'm not talking to someone like you or teaching my students, I actually kind of veg out with. But I love spy novels and spy thrillers.
Yeah.
There is a book I'm going to recommend to you. I can't think of my top of my head right now. But Why We Fight. Why England's at war. I bought it at the Imperial War Museum.
Sure.
It's hard to find.
One of the greatest museums in the whole world, if you've not
museum.
been. It is incredible.
Yeah. But it was written by a diplomat in 1930s. And he actually predicted
the war,
the Nazism and the war.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Rachel, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Dan.
It's been really enlightening. And I think, it's good to kind of cover this topic that is going to be super crucial for everything defense related moving forward, which is better and stronger relationships with academia. Mm-hmm. And I know we're not going to solve the problem overnight, but you're moving mountains here in town. Thanks for listening to the Drone Wars podcast. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe to catch all the latest insights for all things defense and geopolitics.